morning, YouTube. Ty Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. So we're doing a weekend forecast on this video. It's a pretty active weekend ahead, so make sure you're hitting that like button, smashing that subscribe button, and also making sure that you have that bell on so that way you're notified of all the updates that we put up on here. That being said, let's get into things here. We have 3 more days of slight risk ahead at the very least. In fact, I think later down the line weather actually will start to pick up here. I'll be making a video on that tomorrow morning. But as far as today is concerned, here is our severe threat stretching all the way from Cheyenne, Wyoming through the Central Plains. A lot of the same areas we were seeing last night are under the gun yet again. Oklahoma City, Norman, Fort Sill, Wichita Falls, Amarillo, Woodward, even getting into Kansas this time. We have Garden City and Liberal in the slight risk area. And the marginal risk even stretches all the way even into the small southern reaches of Montana and stretching all the way into the Ohio Valley. Numerous big towns are in the line of fire here as well, but the main threat with this will be damaging winds and hail. There is a small hatch risk area over here from Denver to Pueblo once again, and I am a little bit more concerned about the threat of flooding since we've had so many storms over there recently. I'll get into that in just a minute. Also, we do have a 2% tornado threat that does exist from Cheyenne all the way down through Pueblo and even into the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, including the northeast corner also of New Mexico. So that's our day 1 outlook. Go to day 2. We have the slight risk area now pushing more so towards the southeast and up the Atlantic coast here, pretty much from Baltimore, Washington, D.C. all the way down into Savannah, and then pushing back towards the west here. We have Shreveport, Louisiana, the Arklatex, Little Rock's in there as well, and then also Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, Mississippi, Greenville, just south of Atlanta. Actually Atlanta is in this slight risk right now. Birmingham, you're also in there, as well as Columbus, Georgia, Macon, and numerous other areas. The marginal risk actually stretches all the way up north, probably even north of the border, but we could even see Grand Fork and Fargo, North Dakota in there. We have Duluth, Minnesota. The Twin Cities are just on the fringe of this here. And then we also have Aberdeen and Pierre either in or within the fringe of the marginal here, as well as Sioux Falls. Then a lot of the same areas are back in play once again. From today's threat, including Louisville, we're in there again. We have Cincinnati, Springfield, Columbus, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Scranton, New York City, Philly, and many others. So the main threat with this, again, wind and hail. There is not a tornado threat right now. There is a no tor risk at the moment, but we've seen plenty of times this year where these 2%ers and the even the no tor risk days will sometimes overperform, meaning we could see a couple of tornadoes still. Don't really think at the moment conditions are favorable, but Mother Nature, as we all know, is full of surprises here. But this is the weekend forecast here as far as the outlooks are concerned. Let's go ahead and take a look at the flood outlook. So far, only a slight risk for flooding here. This is mainly stretching across that area that I was talking about in particular here. Denver and Pueblo, surprisingly, are not in this slight risk. I wouldn't be surprised if this were to be updated pretty recently, that they would change that. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see an update within the next little bit here, and maybe, just maybe, including Denver in there. We'll see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't result in much of anything, but anywhere from Nashville just to the west of Birmingham, Memphis, Tennessee, of course, Little Rock, you're in there as well, Jackson, Mississippi, and numerous other areas we have to be on the lookout for an increased threat of flooding here. And this is also just to the west of Louisville. Actually, Nashville is in here. When you zoom out, you can't really see it as well now. But now that I look at it again, that's the dot where Nashville is. You are in there as well. Look out Clarksville as well. Then there's Starkville, Mississippi. Tuscaloosa's in there too. And like I said, even in that marginal risk, we have to be on the lookout for flooding, especially over the course of the next couple days. Let's go ahead and look at day 2 here. Day 2, this correlates almost perfectly with the slight risk over here, anywhere from the northern tiers of the Appalachian Mountains all the way through New York and New Hampshire, Vermont. We're having to watch you as well, all the way down into Norfolk, Virginia. We are at a slight risk for flooding here. And as far as the secondary slight risk, which is over here, it's mainly towards the Gulf Coast, but this stretches all the way back towards Oklahoma City. You can see numerous areas under the gun yet again. We're going to see plenty of shower and thunderstorm activity over here, and some of these could have heavy rainfall associated with them. So we'll be on the lookout, and we'll take a look at the final rainfall totals before the video is out here. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what our upper level winds look like. So nothing really crazy for today's setup. Pretty zonal trough here that's trying to develop. It really doesn't start to mature until later into the evening. We do start to see a jet streak try to develop, but the timing of it isn't really going to be such to where we could see a lot of tornadoes. Maybe later in the evening towards this area here, I would be a little bit more concerned. But again, I don't think instability will hold out well enough. And there you go, there's verification of that. Plus, there's a pretty strong capping inversion here too. So, just as I kind of suspected here, like I said, it's not going to be really a big day for severe weather. We're going to see a few severe thunderstorm warnings, but as far as tornadoes are concerned, I would think that we're going to keep that on the down low for now. Now watch what happens as we head into Sunday here. Starting to see a little bit more of a pronounced trough here. You can clearly see it. I'm going to try to draw on this if I can. There we go. Had to fight to get this pen to work here, but nonetheless, and this isn't my best drawing either. Here's our trough beginning to develop here. Do see a little bit of divergence happening here. Not impressive looking, but nonetheless, it's something to keep an eye on. And then here's our ridge here, so we're starting to get into that classic negative PNA-esque setup where it's going to be, or positive PNA, excuse me, where it's going to be warmer out west than it's going to be out east. So with this, usually we end up being in a pattern that is a little bit more conducive for severe weather as we get into the middle of the month. That really seems like that's been a trend this year, where towards the middle of the month is where things start to ramp up a bit. But as we continue to go forward, this trough gets a little bit more pronounced here as we head into Monday. So temperatures could be cool over here towards the eastern half of the country to start the week. How this trough moves forward from there will determine much more. But some interesting changes to make note of there. We look at it from a different level, look a little bit lower, a few thousand feet, maybe about 10,000 feet lower. It's a pretty similar look across the board here. A little bit more ample wind energy towards the plains here, but even then it's not super impressive. So you need wind shear in order to produce severe weather, especially tornadoes. And whenever we see stuff like this, we're usually looking for a little bit more of a ski jump. If it's on the downslope of a ridge here, we typically don't see too much coming out of it. Sometimes you will get good damaging wind setups every once in a while though. So like I said, it's something to keep note of, but I wouldn't necessarily expect an enhanced risk at this time to be issued or anything like that. I wouldn't expect any hurricane force winds at the moment. I think our setup was the best setup we had for that within this week was going to be yesterday. And of course we saw plenty of that. We were even live to cover it. Anyway though, as far as the setup at 500 millibars, which is about close to 30,000 feet, it's not super crazy, so that's some good news there. We look towards the mid levels of the atmosphere for a lifting mechanism. It's not like there's a super strong one either, so like I said, there's some good news to be had there. Tomorrow we do see a little bit more notable of a mechanism here, but even then, like I said, wind shear isn't necessarily ideal for a tornado threat or anything of that sort. Not to say that it can't happen entirely, but it's not evident right now. of course, like I said before, Mother Nature tends to be full of surprises here. One thing to note, though, there is a small area of low-level jet energy that does pop up here, but again, timing is always a factor when it comes to severe weather, and I don't really see too much coming from that. So we head into tomorrow. I do see a little bit of low-level energy over here towards Alabama. I don't think this will yield to much of anything. In fact, there's some contamination here, so that's definitely not going to yield to anything. But there are some things that need to be watched really closely still as far as the threat for damaging winds are concerned. I don't expect a lot to come out of this in the way of severe weather again. But of course, I'm going to be watching closely. And then also, seems like there's a pretty good cap with this one, so I'm just clicking bad spots for the sounding here, truthfully, I think. I'm pretty sure if I look at Cape or something, I'll find it. But in the meantime, though, let's go ahead and take a look at the temperatures. Now, that's one thing that I'm pretty sure everybody already knows. Everybody already knows what the deal is going to be. It's summertime. No one's going to be able to really escape from the heat this year, it seems like. Unless you're towards the Great Lakes where it's a little bit cooler, towards the 60s. Other than that, 80s and 90s abundant for everyone. Even some triple digits, especially towards the desert southwest here. Now we get into tomorrow. It's going to be a pretty similar deal. Plenty of 80s and 90s. Interestingly enough, though, when that trough comes in, though, we may see a few cooler temperatures over towards the Ohio Valley and even towards the southeast, and then maybe even working its way into the northeast and the mid-Atlantic by early next week. So we'll see what happens with that. Also, another thing to note, and this also can play a role into what you're feeling outside, is the dew points and the humidity. We're going to be particularly looking at dew points here. So no surprise over towards where the Gulf of Mexico moisture is. We're going to be dealing with plenty of 60s, plenty of 70s, maybe even a few 80-degree dew points here. Really hope that doesn't happen over my area, because that's not fun, especially since I work in it. But we do also have to note the moisture return that does pop up over here Saturday and into Sunday. This could be setting the stage for a bigger weather event down the line if this holds up. Moisture return today isn't that impressive. There is something to be had over here towards the Oklahoma-Kansas line, but even so, like I said, timing is key, and there you go. Here's a marginal tornado risk, but there's only one thing. This storm looks like it's elevated. Low-level wind shear is not crazy. I mean, it's up to 20 knots, so it's like the bare minimum, but nonetheless, D-Cape is the highest value that I see here. It's even higher than the actual convective cape, the energy that you would actually need for a thunderstorm. So if you could get a storm to form in this environment, you could get some good damaging winds. You may have a small chance of a tornado, but also one thing to note here, that there is a bit of convective inhibition here, so this could limit storm activity too. So like I said, not really expecting a big day for severe weather today, and really not tomorrow either. Again, moisture return over the southeast is pretty solid here, but as a whole, I'm not expecting a lot. I'm going to take a sounding over my area, and what do you know, nothing. I would like to see some storms, I'm not going to lie. Nothing too crazy, but definitely something entertaining to watch off the porch as thunderstorm, as the thunder and lightning roll in. But anyway, as a whole here, I'm going to actually go ahead and take a quick sounding of northeast here. We'll go over towards Pennsylvania. Wow, moisture returns really strong there. Actually a 72-degree dew point. Marginal severe possible, mainly looking at maybe some damaging wind potential. Not the highest as far as threshold is concerned. It's at 632. But if we're going to have any sort of threat, I think that's what it would be. Lapse rates are pretty shallow. They're not very steep at all, so not too concerned as far as hail is concerned. You could probably see pea size at best, but no significant hail to really be concerned with at this point. But that being said here, that's what our dew points are going to be looking like as we head into Sunday, and then of course Monday. We're just in the pattern here where we can just continue to replenish that moisture for as long for Mother Nature can continue to replenish the moisture for as long as she wants to. High pressure systems keep prevailing here, and just that onshore flow is just going to allow that moisture to just continue to be recycled, basically. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some severe parameters, and then we'll finally go ahead and take a look at what the radar could look like. Alright, so here is a look at our convective available potential energy. This is basically thunderstorm fuel here. For the most part, we're not seeing any crazy values. A couple of spots where we're getting above 2,000 joules per kilo. There's actually quite a few spots over here towards the northeast that have plenty of capes here. So again, severe storms could also be possible here. Wouldn't expect anything beyond a marginal risk. There could be a couple of soundings here towards Virginia and around Maryland, Delaware, where we could see a little bit of extra severe potential. Wouldn't expect any tornadoes or anything like that, but damaging winds are definitely possible. Could see some small hail as well. Could see a little bit of severe hail, maybe even up to an inch, which would be quarter size. And then after that, let's take a look at Sunday, and we'll see a pretty similar deal. A little bit more organized severe over here towards Mississippi and Alabama in particular. We're starting to try to sneak into those 3,000 joule parameters here, but storms will fire early in the day, it looks like. And in fact, here's proof of that, because there's a good bit of contamination here at the sounding with this sounding here. Nonetheless, though, we could see some damaging wind potential here if this were to have verified. But nonetheless here, not too concerned with the tornado threat again. And then as we look towards the end of the day, we do see a little area pop up over towards the coast here, where we're getting up to close to 3,000. Is again towards Maryland. Excuse me. But again, pretty similar deal. D-Cape isn't super high. We're below 800. It's another threshold number, but 2930 as far as surface Cape is concerned. Pretty unstable environment. Not too much in the way of convective inhibition. Lapse rates aren't high though, so severe potential exists, but it's more so on the marginal side, just as indicated by the skew T there. And then, of course, a lot of that Cape is on its way out by the morning on Monday, and then we'll have to see how things rebuild, because we could see more severe weather on Monday as well. But let's go ahead and finish out by taking a look at what the radar could look like for the country as a whole, since this is a weekend forecast after all. So here are storms. Here's our storm potential today heading into the evening. We see storms beginning to fire in the southeast as we get into the twilight hours here into the evening. Same can be said for over towards the western high plains. A few of these will go severe, and then as we get into the evening hours, we could see some rain across the southeast. A little bit of a weak MCS may come through here. Wouldn't expect too much in the way of severe from this. A lot of parameters aren't really there. But this will continue to push onward and then head into the southeast here. Then with this low pressure here, we do see a line of storms that begins to develop here. Could see some severe development. There could even be an upgrade to slight risk for this, depending on how parameters trend throughout the evening and into the morning. As we get late into the evening here, a lot of the storm threat starts to die down. And then as we head into Monday morning, most of the rain is just about out of here at this point. But that being said here, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it useful. Again, if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Also make sure that you are getting the bell on, so that way you can get notified of every video that we do. We often end up updating at least once, sometimes even twice a day, depending on how active it is. Then of course, share the video. Also, any questions are welcome. That being said, hope you guys have a good weekend. This has been Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care.